I imagine that most people watching my videos don't need convincing that marriage equality is a good thing. And if you are watching my videos and you disagree with that, why are you watching me? But even so, sitting here and telling people to support something, well, in Australia's case, to vote yes in the new marriage equality postal survey, isn't probably going to achieve much anyway if you're a no voter. So what I'm going to do instead is tell you a story. So here's a scenario for you. A young guy goes to school, secondary school, every single day. He attends every single class. He does his best to get good grades. He's nice to everyone. He has aspirations for his future and is just generally excited about it. Doesn't get into any trouble, doesn't bother really anyone. But given it's secondary school, sexual desires start to form, and just like everyone else, he's trying to navigate his way through the confusing world of what only seems to be girls liking boys and vice versa. Unfortunately though, he realizes that something is different. And he doesn't really, it takes him a while to realize until he starts to catch himself looking at other guys. Not girls, like everyone else is telling you, like society is telling you, like television and films and books and magazines and newspapers and adverts are telling you to do. And yet what his body and desires were telling him were nothing at all to what everyone else was telling him to do. They weren't aligning at all. He was completely outcasted, not physically. He was quite lucky in that department, but he was outcasted mentally because he just kept convincing himself. Naturally, of course, he develops a crush on someone, but you can't tell them. Not because you're just generally shy about the approach between someone that you like, but because there's a shame attached to saying his true desire for another guy. The reason he doesn't say anything because he actually feels threatened. He feels isolated. He feels like he doesn't belong. People may not be directly homophobic to him, but he convinces himself that the world is, because everything that he sees or does or interacts with doesn't line up with everything that is happening in here. He cages himself and doesn't share his feelings because he has no idea how people are going to react. Will your friends disown you, hate you, bully you, think that you're a freak? And I guess he can never know without asking, but doesn't feel that he can ask. He tries to ignore his feelings and thinks they will pass in time, but they don't. If anything, the lack of addressing them just makes them stronger in him. So he descends deeper and deeper, thinking that no one is there to help him. He delves so deep that he honestly begins to feel that he is worthless, despite all his efforts at school, despite all his efforts in every other walk of life. He delves so deep that he actually contemplates what it would be like if he just wasn't there. It becomes so painful that you think that just stopping that pain is actually a solution. And if you can't see a future for yourself because of how deep you've gone into your own isolation, into your own perception of homophobia, where is a more reasonable response to that? Now, that story you've just heard isn't of someone that I knew. It's not someone that I have heard of, and it's not something that I read. That story is of me. This was essentially my experience at school, and this is actually the reason why I support marriage equality. Making it official and making it a normal process between two people who love each other normalizes the process. It makes it acceptable and it etches it into the image of society. And when future generations come through the world, they will learn that marriage is just between two people, not between a man and a woman. It's just between two people. It's part of a process of stamping out homophobia from its absolute core, whether it's actual homophobia that you're experiencing from other people, or if it's an internalized homophobia that you perceive is going on around you. Even if it's not actually going on, it's bleeding through society because you see it and you actually become really self-aware of what goes on around you. And regardless, it has a huge effect, because ultimately I convinced myself in my final year of high school that I was pretty much a monster to society because I didn't know anyone else who was like me. And you can't really talk about it because you don't know what's going to happen to you. And my story is so tame compared to some of the full-on stories I've heard over the years from other LGBT people. People's families have been completely destroyed by it. People have contemplated suicide, attempted suicide, delved into depression. People who experience direct abuse every single day of their lives. I am so fortunate that I haven't had that experience. I think only once it has really happened to me badly. and I got out of it unscathed. And these people cop all this abuse just because they're different. That it shouldn't even be described as different. It should just be who they are. And that is why I'm voting yes. I hold British citizenship as well as Australian. I can go over there and get married whenever I want. And I hear about what's going on in schools over there now, and it's fantastic at how much it's already changing, even within just a few years. I'm looking at like a generational thing, but it's already enforced at how much influence is now coming through schools to try and stamp out that homophobia from the core. Because you can't really tell a homophobic adult not to be homophobic. You can try, but the chances of that actually changing are really slim unless they have some sort of really personal experience, like a family member who comes out as gay. But kids are a blank canvas, so they should. Hate is something that you learn. Simple. And that normalization process that's already going on in the UK, from what I can see, it's not going on everywhere, but it's starting. I want that to happen in Australia, in the country that I was born, in the country that I love and that I'm proud of, so that future generations can be more accepted. It's not for me, really. It's not for my benefit. It is for the benefit of millions of people. Like, seriously, millions of people. And it amazes me when I finally did come out of the closet and start to interact with more gay people once I went to university and beyond. It is astonishing at how many people there actually are. And I think people that haven't really been exposed to that don't quite understand how many lives are getting affected every single day, that Australia is just lagging behind all the other Western countries. And yeah, this will work. I can use my right hand. Here is the form, postal survey, marriage, equality, and there it is. Mark one box only, and I will. Thank you very much. Now, all I need to do is put this in this supplied envelope and mail it back. And there it is, and off it goes. See ya!